WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Cotonou. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. The Benin's security sector loses 35 soldiers in a fresh attack by unknown gunmen in the northern region near Burkina Faso. Ivorian President Ouattara remains indecisive about a fourth-term presidential bid but commits to serving his country.
5 years ago, exactly in 2020, I indicated to the diplomatic corps that it was my intention to no longer be a candidate because I felt it was necessary to hand over to a new generation. As of today, I have not yet made a decision, but
Death toll of the attack on the Chadian presidency rises to 20, with the latest being a soldier. And the active forces in Guinea frown at the death of 3 people and several injuries following a recent demonstration.
When
we talk about demonstrations, we assume that there are people who have got to go out, demonstrate outside, etc. But also there was another objective to achieve.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and welcome to our listeners within and beyond the sub-region. This edition begins in Benin, where 35 soldiers from the Defense and Security Forces FDS were killed in a recent attack that occurred on Wednesday in the northern part of the country. Unidentified armed individuals targeted a strategic position known as Point Triple in the Alibori department, specifically in the Baninkura area. This attack marks the highest number of casualties the country has experienced in its fight against terrorism. Christopher Teacher reports.
According to initial reports, the terrorists launched the offensive in the late afternoon, around 4 p.m., and the exchange of fire continued until approximately midnight. All the soldiers stationed at the Point Triple position were killed, and the attackers set fire to their bodies. Additionally, the assailants seized heavy weapons and other military equipment from the defense and security forces, resulting in significant material losses. This attack, notable for its extreme violence, underscores the serious risks that defense and security forces face in the region already plagued by increasing insecurity. Authorities regard this incident as a major loss for Benin, marking the most significant casualty since the country's commitment to counter-terrorism began. The attack serves as a grim reminder of the severe terrorist threat in the northern part of the country, leading to tragic consequences on the ground. This incident highlights the urgent need for the Beninese government and local authorities to bolster security measures, prevent future attacks in vulnerable areas, and investigate those responsible for this tragedy.
Christopher Teacher with that report. In Chad, the toll has risen to 20, with the latest death involving a soldier following Wednesday evening attack on the Chadian presidency. This shooting incident occurred as the country awaits the results of the legislative, provincial and local elections held at the end of December 2024. The government of Chad has labeled the attack as an assault on state security and indicative of an insurrectional movement. In a statement released on Thursday, the Chadian public prosecutor announced that investigations are on the way to identify and apprehend the perpetrators and accomplices involved in the attack. It is important to note that the attack follows previous incidents involving the Boko Haram group last October, coinciding with the announced withdrawal of French troops from Chad. Given these events, concerns regarding the security situation in Chad may be heightened. Dr. Everett Tode is a Chadian political and security analyst, lecturer, researcher at the University of N'Djamena. He provides analysis of the situation.
Beyond what has just happened around the presidency, you will remember that there was a recent attack by Boko Haram in the west, and then there is a threat of Darfur, the Sudanese conflict, which also poses
a somewhat dangerous situation in the eastern borders of our country. It goes without saying that it is true. The French army has left and that the Chadian defense and security forces today lack air protection. The security system needs to be reviewed a little, especially those in charge, because if it is indeed an attack or was announced at the beginning, unfortunately this is no longer the case. But we need to review the security system a little to ensure that the army can equip itself with modern means to at least prevent external interventions. The threat of Boko Haram has been mentioned, and the threat posed by the Sudanese conflict has also been mentioned. It is important today, more than ever, that the government can ensure that the army can redouble its vigilance and increase its numbers even more, if only to be prepared for any eventuality.
Dr. Everett Todi is a Chadian political and security analyst. Crossing over to Cote d'Ivoire, where President Alassane Ouattara says he has not yet made a decision about whether to run for a fourth term. His statement comes as activists from the ruling party, the Rally of Houfouetists for Democracy and Peace, continue to call on Ivorian head of state to continue running the affairs of the country. However, President Ouattara reassures the state of his health and his desire to continue serving the people of Cote d'Ivoire. Abdoulaye Hassan has the details in this report, fighting by our Abidjan correspondent Adbin Adey.
Activists from the ruling party, the Rally of Houfouetists for Democracy and Peace (RHDP), continue to urge President Alassane Ouattara to seek a fourth term. However, the president maintains that he has not yet made a decision. President Ouattara assured the public about his health and expressed his commitment to continue serving Cote d'Ivoire.
5 years ago, exactly in 2020, I indicated to the diplomatic corps that it was my intention to no longer be a candidate because I felt it was necessary to hand over to a new generation. Today, I can tell you that I did well to accept my party's proposal. As of today, I have not yet made a decision, but I can also reassure you that I am in good health and want to continue serving my country. As I also said, my party has at least half a dozen candidates who are in this room.
In addition, President Ouattara confirms that the presidential election is scheduled for October 2025 and will proceed smoothly.
The year 2025 is an election year for Cote d'Ivoire. This electoral process, which was initiated in October 2024 with the revision of the electoral list, will see the presidential election in October 2025. I would like to reassure you once again and reassure the entire community that this election, which will take place in October 2025, will be peaceful, democratic and transparent.
The diplomatic corps accredited to Cote d'Ivoire has emphasized the need for free, transparent, inclusive and peaceful elections. They have also called for respect for the positions of the various parties involved in the electoral process.
That was Abidjan correspondent Albin Aded's report, voiced by Abdoulaye Hassan.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Now in Guinea, the active forces have taken stock of the decree by the state after the 2-day demonstrations to demand the departure of the military from power and the establishment of a civil transition. The coalition that brings together opposition parties and civil society expressed sadness over the death of 3 people, including several injuries and arrests of peaceful demonstrators. The active forces also announced other demonstrations in the coming days. Ibrahima Bailaya Diallo is the spokesperson for the Forum of Social Forces of Guinea.
When we talk about demonstrations, we assume that there are people who have got to go out, demonstrate outside, etc. But also there was another objective to achieve. That is to say that it was necessary to paralyze the city already to attract the attention of the CNRD. I believe that for that it was done because there were even sporadic and spontaneous demonstrations in areas where there were usually no demonstrations. I take the case of Kobaya and a little towards Tawiya, the commune of Ratoma, and on the other side, that is to say on the coast. But secondly also, I believe that it will be something that will grow. It is not because on the 6th only all the problems had to be resolved. I believe that it will mark the starting point of something, and then there you go. Because we have noticed for 3 years that the CNRD has no desire to complete this transition. Moreover, he even tells you that they are no longer in transition, they are in reconstruction. We have nothing. We do not really understand the concept. In any case, that leads us to believe that we are in a kind of reconstruction that will change the life of the Guinean in the long term. No, it's not suspended. We are going to schedule orders. We will not stop. In reality, we have understood that creating a balance of power, as long as this balance of power does not exist, it goes without saying that there you go. So that proves that today he is in his certainties.
Ibrahiman Balaya Jallo is the spokesperson for the Forum of Social Forces of Guinea. Let's now move into the Central Sahel region, precisely Mali, where former Prime Minister Moussa Marar is calling for a return to constitutional order. Addressing the press on Wednesday, he outlined several significant challenges facing the country, including security and restrictions on civil liabilities. The former Prime Minister also criticized the current management of the military transition. Francis Boniface has the details in this report, filed by our Bamako correspondent Aliyu Cham.
During a press conference on Wednesday, Moussa Mara expressed 5 major concerns currently facing Mali. They include the security situation, the economy, the ongoing energy crisis, restrictions on freedoms, and the organization of elections scheduled for 2025. The former Prime Minister also took the opportunity to review the initiative launched a year ago to stabilize the transition process.
The return to constitutional order must no longer be a taboo subject because our authorities themselves have included in the budget for the 2025 financial year resources to organize elections. So that means that they themselves have planned, at least budgetarily, financially, that the elections will take place in 2025. What prevents them from setting a timetable, from working with the political actors under the guidance of the steps that should lead us to these elections planned for the 2025 by themselves?
While Mali has been plunged into a serious energy crisis that has lasted for nearly 2 years, the former head of government under the regime of Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta warns of the consequences that could result from the situation.
This issue of energy shortage, it can be a source of great difficulties this year 2025, and it can even destabilize the transition if we do not do anything about it. It is good to have a pragmatic mind and above all to be concerned with relieving the lives of our compatriots.
However, Moussa Mara urges the authorities to prioritize dialogue over military action as a means to address the security crisis in the country.
That was WADR's Bamako correspondent Aliyu Cham's report, voiced by Francis Boniface. In Burkina Faso, nearly 7 tons of illicit drugs were seized between the end of December 2024 and the beginning of January 2025. This disclosure was made by the Burkinabe Customs authorities. The market value of the seizure is estimated at nearly 170 million CFA francs, equivalent to $267,413. Imo Edit has the details.
According to the General Management of Burkinabe Customs, the first seizure occurred on December 27 on the Boboja Lasso of Faramana actors. Customs officers intercepted over 6,000 kilograms of amphetamines hidden in a 10-ton truck that was en route to Mali. The value of the seizure is estimated at 110 million CFA francs. On the same route, customs officers stopped another suspicious vehicle that was concealing more than 1,100 tablets of Indian hemp, totaling 800 kilograms, which is valued at over 56 million CFA francs. The latest seizure took place on January 4 in the southeastern part of the country, involving a public transport vehicle from Togo that contained more than 44 kilograms of Indian hemp. The value of this seizure is estimated at more than 2 million CFA francs, bringing the total value of all seizures to 169 million CFA francs. Meanwhile, Burkinabe Customs has issued a final warning about the presence of drug trafficking networks operating in the sub-region. They call on West African countries to take action to prevent the serious consequences of drug use on young people.
Imo Edit reporting there. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar and across our partner stations in the sub-region. Here is a reminder of the top stories. The Beninese security sector loses 35 soldiers in a fresh attack by unknown gunmen in the northern region near Burkina Faso. Ivorian President Ouattara remains indecisive about a fourth-term presidential bid but commits to serving his country. Death toll of the attack on the Chadian presidency rises to 20, with the latest being a soldier. The active forces in Guinea frown at the death of 3 people and several injuries following a recent demonstration. We also have a guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Thank you for sticking with us. As a reminder, we're streaming live on YouTube at WADR News and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Leaders from across Africa gathered in Accra, Ghana on January 7 to witness the inauguration of John Dramani Mahama as Ghana's newly elected president. Beyond the ceremonial aspects, the event carried significant geopolitical implications. Security consultant and international relations expert Professor Kwesi Anin believes the presence of leaders from Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger at President Mahama's inauguration symbolizes a potential opening for more dialogue to have them rescind their decision of leaving the regional bloc ECOWAS. WADR's Accra correspondent Nadia Dictator reports.
Ghana's President John Mahama's inauguration on January 7, 2025 drew a strong presence of African leaders. Among the notable attendees were Paul Kagame of Rwanda, Bola Tinubu of Nigeria, Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone, Patrice Talon of Benin, and William Ruto of Kenya. Speaking on the significance of the presence of these African leaders at the event, security consultant and international relations expert Professor Kwesi Anin noted that Mahama's inauguration underscored his Pan-Africanist ideals and his vision for a united and strong Africa.
Mahama is an internationalist and also a Pan-Africanist. But even more than that, he realizes that the Pan-Africanist dream or a closer African integration dream be achieved when West African leaders themselves are strong.
One of the most notable moments of the ceremony was the attendance of representatives from Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, countries that have recently announced their decision to exit ECOWAS. Their presence has sparked discussions on whether the regional bloc can heal divisions and bring these nations back into its fold. Professor Anin highlighted the symbolic nature of their participation and its implication for trust building within ECOWAS, particularly under Mahama's leadership.
Having their representatives in Accra, for me, symbolizes a potential opening, but also a recognition that with much more informed leadership, we will be able to bring the ECOWAS integration project back on track as part of a larger Pan-Africanist international relations.
As ECOWAS approaches its 50th anniversary in May, the question remains whether the bloc can overcome its challenges and live up to its founding ideals. Professor Anin remains cautiously optimistic, underscoring the importance of strong leadership and strategic appointments in driving this vision forward. For WADR, Nadia Dictator, Accra.
Back here in Senegal, the expanded unemployment rate of the country reached 20.3% in the third quarter of 2024 as compared to 19.5% in the same period in 2023. This is according to the results of the National Employment Survey in Senegal conducted by the National Agency of Statistics and Demography. Etiatisu has more in the following report.
In the ENES reports conducted by the ANSD in the third quarter of 2024 and relayed by Les Echos, 58.3% of people of working age 15 years or older participated in the labor market. This level of activity is slightly higher in rural areas than in urban areas, with men more active than women, with rates of 68.7% and 47.7% respectively. The report added that year-over-year participation levels were down 3.1 percentage points compared to the same period in 2023. It also indicated that youth aged 15 to 24 years old who are neither in employment, education, or training accounted for 34.1% of this age group in the third quarter of 2024. This rate is higher in rural areas than in urban areas. The report also indicated that a trend of main labor market indicators in annual terms shows a decline in participation and employment rates, combined with a slight increase in unemployment, both in the broad sense and in the strict sense of the International Labour Office, ILO. The echos stated that according to the ILO, unemployed include people without a job who are available for job within 2 weeks and have actively sought employment in the 4 weeks preceding data collection. However, this definition is considered restrictive for Senegal, where the labour market is poorly structured for active job search.
That's HRTC reporting there.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest tonight is international relations expert and security consultant, Professor Kwesi Anin. He speaks about the impact of the presence of various African leaders at Ghanaian President John Maham's inauguration and the possibility of it opening a window to dialogue with the three Sahel states on their way to exit ECOWAS.
Well, Mahama is an internationalist and also a Pan-African. But even more than that, he realizes that the Pan-Africanist dream or a closer African integration dream be achieved when West African leaders themselves are strong. So you would notice a very strong presence of West African leaders, but even more importantly, our closest neighbors. And for me, that is very telling. We all know that in the last couple of years, Ghana's disastrous foreign policy, when we led ECOWAS, that saw all kinds of coup d'etats and attempted coup d'etats, has actually undermined ECOWAS integration project to the extent that 3 member states have decided to leave the organization. So having their representatives in Accra, for me, symbolizes a potential opening, but also a recognition that with much more informed leadership, we will be able to bring the ECOWAS integration project back on track as part of a larger Pan-Africanist international relations.
It's interesting the point you make on this particular aspect, especially for the 3 countries that have indicated their decision to exit ECOWAS. And as we do understand it, they are officially exiting by the 29th of January, but then they've agreed to a 6-month grace period within which ECOWAS is hoping to make some last attempt as well to have them rescind their decision. Having them present here, especially the leader for Burkina Faso, does it give any indication at all with regard to the work ECOWAS is going to be doing in quest to have these countries return to the bloc?
Now, let me be very blunt. ECOWAS was a failure and a disaster in how it handled these 3 countries. Our own former president thought he was selling out Burkina Faso to the United States for whatever favors that he thought he needed by accusing Burkina Faso of having given gold mines to the Wagner group. So although Ghana had been the leader of the Accra Initiative, encompassing Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Togo, Benin, and Ghana itself, with Nigeria as an observer, that treacherous behavior by Ghana undermined the whole Accra Initiative endeavor, bringing mistrust, suspicion, and a lot of disappointment also. So having them in Accra symbolizes their own willingness first, that a new leadership in Accra will bring closer relations, more trusting relations within the Accra Initiative, but also that having Tinubu in Accra was very symbolic as head of Nigeria and West Africa's absolute powerhouse. So Mahama being able to gather all these disparate heads of states with varying national interests opens a door for what we correctly say that they've been giving some leeway to reflect. And I think that reflection will start in Accra, or started in Accra yesterday. The other point I want to make very clear is that the, in quote, revolution that has started by the Alliance of Sahel States, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, in kicking out this horrible colonial power, France, is beginning to catch fire elsewhere. Chad has kicked France out. Even La Côte d'Ivoire has given them marching orders, and Senegal has done the same thing. So we are seeing a new, not only West African multilateral international relations, but a certain assertiveness of West African leaders in saying we want a new role in geopolitics.
He is international relations expert and security consultant, Professor Kwesi Ani. Let's now join Sankule Janko for the latest in the world of sports.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The appointment of Eric Shell as the head coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria has divided football stakeholders in the country. The Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, announced the appointment of Shell on Wednesday, following an executive meeting on Tuesday. The 47-year-old Malian has taken from interim coach Augustine Ogovon, who secured AFCON 2025 Morocco qualification for Nigeria. Ex-players, football fans and pundits alike have all weighed in on the appointment of Shell, who led Mali to the semi-finals of the 2020 AFCON in Côte d'Ivoire. For Pius Idoku, a Nigerian sports journalist, the appointment is the right decision.
It's a good call by the Nigeria Football Federation because we have an avalanche of events that will be happening this year, and so as early as the Nigeria Football Federation starts with the national team of Nigeria, as early as the start, I think it's the best course for Nigeria right now. Although the appointment actually divided opinion, but for me, I think it's a good call.
However, another football journalist, Tosim Holmes, has a different viewpoint.
I'm indifferent. I am totally indifferent to the appointment. The reason why I say I'm indifferent is because people perhaps had high expectations because of what has been said in terms of who they want to hire and all those kind of things. But the moment the announcement became official, I had to come to peace with it because you have to support the coach now. I think for me, the big question is what he can do in big moments, because it looks like when expectation is very high, there are question marks.
Like these two, Nigerians are divided on this appointment. Meanwhile, the NFF has tasked Shell to secure FIFA 2025 World Cup qualification for Nigeria. Nigerians will have a glimpse of Shell's tactical prowess when he leads the Super Eagles during the World Cup qualifiers in March. That's it for sports. It's back to you.
We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Maudo Juf, Umu Danyugu, and to Sheikh Njai for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our environment program, Enviroscope, with Abdullahi Hassan. I am Augustine Kali. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.6.